Hello and welcome back to our Training Industry Leader Talk, Upskilling Employee Technical Skills, sponsored by ComLab India, Guide, Reviture, VR Vision, and Whatfix. So I'm Liz Spate, that events marketing specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here today. So before we get started, we'll go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. So please feel free to use that chat window to interact with our speaker with any comments. And as for questions, please submit all those questions to the Q&A section on your toolbar below. We will be addressing all those comments and questions at the end of the program during our Q&A section, but we will have some interactive moments throughout, so definitely have that chat window open to participate. And at the end of your time here with us, you will notice a short evaluation survey has popped open in another tab in your browser, and we would appreciate your thoughts on today's event. And all of our sessions are being recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include the link to the on-demand program for you to share with your team. If this is your first event, we would love to welcome you. We exist to make connections among learning and development professionals, and we offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D, like live events like today's Leader Talk, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, our podcast, and our membership. We would also love to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media, so please follow us on your favorite platforms for us to continue the conversation. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our third speaker of today. Sunil is a seasoned product marketing manager at Whatfix, specialized in enhancing employee experience and driving digital adoption. With extensive experience in launching products, the streamlined digital transformation, Sunil helps businesses unlock the full potential of their software investments. His current focus is on empowering businesses to accelerate time to value, maximize return on investments from their tech stack, and ensuring they achieve measurable outcomes. And with that, take it away.
Thank you, Liz. Hi, team, and welcome everyone to the to our session from Whatfix. I'm Sunil. I'm a product marketing manager at Whatfix. We are a digital adoption platform founded in the year 2014, headquartered in Bangalore, India, with over 1,000 employees worldwide. And as Liz mentioned, on top of the responsibilities I'm also responsible for product training and GTM enablement here at Whatfix. So for the next 45 minutes, we will explore how you can build a confident and high-performing workforce with continuous and hands-on learning. Before we get into the how of it, we will talk about the why of it. Why is hands-on learning important to meet your goals, and what are the benefits of offering them to your employees? Then we will talk about some of the strategies that you can use to deliver effective training programs, and how DAP or digital adoption platform can help you do them. And if you don't know what a digital adoption platform or a DAP is, then it's also something that we will be covering in the later slides. We'll also go through some of the real world examples of how DAP has powered hands-on learning. And in the end, we'll have some time for any questions that you might, excuse me, any questions that you might have. So before we begin, I wanted to start with asking all of you, what is your top challenge when it comes to training your employees at your organization? I'm going to give like 30 seconds and you're going to see the poll on your screen. Some of the options that you have are lack of engagement, limited budget or resources, difficulty in measuring the impact, keeping training content current and relevant. And if there are any other challenges that you're facing, I would love to hear them in the chat also, and we can discuss that in the later slides. Oh, I see the chat is now enabled back. So yeah, if you...
And with that, here are those results.
Great. I think it's almost like a event split, but I see that a lot of you have difficulty in measuring the impact and effectiveness of training. And this is something that we will get into in one of our later slides. And we will definitely cover the lack of engagement bit and the managing your budgets. We'll also talk a little bit about how you can keep your training content current and relevant with the evolving needs that you're doing. Okay. Are there anything in the chat? Different priorities competing for mindshare? Yes, that is also something that we will be covering. Okay. So let's start with talking about the obvious problem, right? The need for learning and training is stronger now than it has ever been before. Gartner states that an employee in a typical large enterprise needs to interact with at least 14 applications on a daily basis. And each of those each of those applications comes with unique processes and workflows that they need to learn to do their jobs effectively. And the boon and bane of SaaS companies or the SaaS products that we use are the continuous innovation and upgrade to software, which also means that there's the continuous change to workflows and processes that employees have to keep learning and relearning and adopting. Another key issue that a lot of them are facing is the lack of access to knowledge and support. While it is available, it is in different systems, in silos, in different apps, and every team has their own source of truth that they maintain. So when information support is not available at that moment of need, a forward momentum is lost, leading to a negative impact on the productivity. For example, if a user was to move away from within an app to look for help, there's a 70% chance that they would not be able to return to the same point immediately. They're going to get sidetracked, they're going to forget what they were doing, they're going to move on to another thing, and that's going to affect productivity of the entire company. So the underlying reason of why employees are struggling to meet their full potential is because modern teams and traditional training methods, they usually don't mix. So when you train users by conducting an hour-long enablement session where someone is just info dumping a lot of information, your employees aren't remembering all that. And personally, I've been on both sides of this, and it's usually not a good sight seeing your audience slowly lose interest as you reach that 60-minute mark and you still have like 10 more slides together. And because most of them are either running to another meeting right after or are distracted with emails and text messages while during or when they're in the session, they're also going to have a lot of questions. And who gets to answer them? The people that did the enablement session, right? They're going to come back to you and keep asking you those questions, which are going to disrupt your workflow as well as theirs. And finally, enablement session have a one size fits all approach. So someone that would need only 30 minutes to understand all the concepts will feel that the enablement is a drag, and the ones that need more than an hour will think that it's all moving too fast. So how do you fix that? So before we get into that, there's a very quick exercise that I wanted to do with all of you. On your screen, I'm going to show you a few letters for 5 seconds, and I want you to try and memorize all of them. Ready? Okay, so in the chat, don't tell what you can remember, just try to remember and add the number of letters that you can add. If you can remember 5 or 6, and there are 12 in total. So just in the chat, just enter how many of them you could remember. I see 5, 5, 3, 6, 7, 7, 8 is a, wow, that's actually a good number. Okay, I see Juan got 12, that's good. I see 10, that's also a very good number. But I see that most of them are in that 5 to 6, maximum 7 range. So let's try that again. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Try and remember all the letters that you see on the screen. Okay, how many can you remember now? I see a lot of 12s this time. So if you compare what you saw before and what you saw now, they are the same string of letters in the same order. But then the second time you were able to recall all of them as compared to the first time. And why is that? And it's because as human beings, we can only remember 3 to 4 things at a time. And anything more gets blurry in our memory and we tend to soon forget it. So we have all heard this very common statistic that says that all employees forget their training within the first 3 months. And the reason that they do that is because they are only retaining that 3 or 4 things that they've learned in the enablement session, and anything else that they're not immediately applying in the job that they're doing, they don't tend to recall it after when you ask them like a couple of months later. And this is why LMS and classroom-based training never work in modern days. And I'm going to give you 3 to 4 reasons why that is true. First, there is workflow disruption. LMS requires employees to leave their primary work environment to access the training materials somewhere else. This interruption to their workflow leads to a loss of productivity. So if you ask anybody to leave their desk, go to a different a meeting room or somewhere else and then do the session and then ask them to come back to their desk, they're not going to come back directly, right? They're going to go get a coffee, talk to people, and then it's a good chance that they're not retaining everything that they are talking about there. Second, this also leads to a high support volume. As we saw before, employees struggle to find quick answers answers to their question when they're on the LMS. This leads to an increase in support tickets and requests for assistance. This is not just a bad thing for you as the enabler, it's also bad things for people sitting next to them. Because the first person I ask when I don't know what to do something is ask the person sitting right next to me, and I'm disrupting two people's workflow now and not just mine. Third, as LMS is seen as an additional burden, employees also hate doing it. So even though it is going to make their jobs easier, whenever there is a course assigned to them, they usually start with granting about it. Like they're like, okay, this is another course that I need to do. So LMS training is usually perceived as dry, passive, and unengaging, which leads to low completion rates and poor knowledge retention. And finally, number four, businesses face a potential loss in revenue in terms of delayed go lives, increased work errors, and poor adoption of new systems, which results in a loss of potential revenue. And this is why you need a new strategy for training your employees. So, what is the strategy for devising a strong employee training programs? You can leverage digital learning tools that help you offer on-the-job training and personalized learning experiences. You should also focus on offering self-help type support so employees can get answers faster and you have more bandwidth to focus on other important stuff. Next, you focus on upskilling and reskilling your employees so they are always up to date on the challenges. And finally, you can establish micro-learning and continuous learning mechanism to reinforce the training you've offered. Micro-learning keeps users from feeling overwhelmed by the training, and continuous learning keeps them sharp and up to date on all the tools and processes that they need to know. So how does learning in the flow of work help? Your employees can set their own pace of learning and they have the flexibility to learn in their preferred formatted time. Learning can be incorporated into the flow of work instead of dragging your employees away from their work environment, which halts forward momentum and eventually impacting productivity. And what are the benefits of learning in the flow of work? You equip your employees with the skills they need to get the best out of the tools and succeed in the digital workplace. You can also empower them to be self-sufficient with on-demand contextual support, make learning more accessible, make information discovery faster and easier so that people can focus on the task at hand. So basically reduce work about work and increase work. So before I get into the next part of it, right? Before we understand how you can, okay, I think the poll is already there. How you can adopt new technologies to build continuous training programs. Taking a quick pulse check. Do you know what a digital adoption platform is? And the poll is gonna be up on your screen for another 30 seconds.
I'll give everybody about 5 more seconds. The results are really good. And here those are.
Got it. So majority of you don't know what digital adoption platform is, and that's okay. So before I get into what an actual digital adoption platform is, let's do another activity. So imagine you work for Whatfix Pizza Parlor, right? You're hired by Whatfix Pizza Parlor to manage the delivery of pizzas across the city. And your roles and responsibility are to collect order information, delivery addresses from customers via phone calls, and then coordinate with delivery agents to deliver the order within 30 minutes. For anybody that was born after 2000 in this webinar, I'm sure this would sound like a foreign concept, but then this used to be how you ordered pizza back in the day. Okay, so now this is your order. So let's imagine you live in this imaginary city, right? It's very beautiful. You have a school, you have a hospital, you have a couple of parks there, and then you found a very optimal location for your pizza parlor. It's towards the bottom left. And then you get your first call, and then the order has to be delivered somewhere in the in the top right corner. So if you had to tell the delivery person how to reach this particular house, right? And keep in mind that you have to do that. You have to keep the 30-minute time guarantee. So you need to tell them the most optimal location. So if you had to tell them how to go there, there are a couple of obvious routes, but then there is one quickest route, and that is this one. So if you had to pass on this knowledge to your delivery agent, you just write this, right? So you just tell them that you have to go west until you see a hospital. You take a left, you follow the road and take the third right, and you will find the location opposite a park on your right side, right? Very simple, very easy. But unfortunately, in real world, that is not how any city looks, right? Like the cities are more complex and they look something similar to this particular map. And in here, left and right, they don't really make sense because the lines are all squiggly. There is lake somewhere. The library is between like four other streets. There is there's a flyover right in the middle of the city that you don't know if you have to get on or get off. So same thing. You have your pizza parlor at the bottom left, and there is there is a delivery address somewhere on the top, right? And to make matters worse, because it's a large city, you also get more orders. So now you have to also tell them that they have two orders that they need to manage. They have to deliver the first order near East 9th and the second order towards the right hand most side of the map. So now when you talk about the delivery time, that is the first route that you can take. You can take this red route to the first place, take the orange route to the second place, and then take the green route back to the pizza parlor. This might be the quickest route, or there is traffic, there is diversion, so you don't know how that's going to be. And then there is the green route to the red place, orange route to the second place, and then the red route back to the pizza place. And this is the information that you'll have to give. So repeating the same exercise again, if you had to send this information to the delivery agent and tell them that this is how they need to do, how would you do that? Do you think this space is enough to give them that information? And even if you did write it down and they did memorize the direction when they're driving, do you think they'll be reaching both these places on time without any deviations? The chat is open if you think that is possible. More often than not, definitely no, right? And Jessica, you're right. The delivery of the instruction that you have to give will be in the form of a Google Map. So modern softwares work the same way. I mean, not back in those days, but usually when there used to be less software involved in one's workplace, it was easy to train them first and then let them use that software later. But then now, in the age of SaaS, in the age of AI, where there are so many advancements that are coming every day, there are so many updates, there are new processes that we are employing every day. It becomes difficult for you to train beforehand and then just send them off into the wild to do the job that they were hired to do, right? So this is where adapt comes in. So think of the application that's in the bottom layer. So you have employee-facing application, that is enterprise applications, or you have customer-facing applications. And then you have the platform that these applications sit on. They could be either browser-based, they could be on a mobile phone, or they could be on a desktop application that you're using. Then you have the end users. End users can sometimes be your employees, your partner, your customers. It could be the admins and operations specialists that you're working with, or it could also be your managers, the CEOs, the CFOs that need to know what is happening. Digital adoption platform sits between these two people, and they basically help you. They help you make technology user savvy, right? So instead of teaching your employees how to use the software, you can make changes to the application that will make it easier for the employees to use. So a couple of examples here on how DAPs or digital adoption platforms can help you offer hands-on training. And before I move on, do you have any questions about DAP or anything? If you want me to get back and clarify anything about DAP, please add that to the chat or the Q&A, and I'll pick it up whenever I can. Okay. So the first that you can do is you can provide in-app training with flows. So this is an example of a CRM here where a salesperson has to create a new lead for a product, right? So let's just say this is Salesforce. And then the process of creating a new lead is that you click on leads, and then you add the information, click on new, add the information, and then click on save, right? This is step 1, step 2, step 3. So whenever the user does not know how to do it also, they will be able to come back and then create this particular step. Now, this is a simplified example for the sake of this webinar, but then I'm sure in any business application that you use, there are multi-step, like 10, 20 step processes that you'll have to do. And this is something that you can create on top of the application itself. The second, I know that I spoke a lot about not using LMS, but then LMSs does have their pros and cons. And but the one thing that I did say about LMS is that it takes you away from your workspace. So with digital adoption platform, you can add like a task list where if they click on, let's say, update your profile, it'll start that particular training flow. So they're not going to a different application to see a video of how it is done and then coming back to the application to see that this is how we do it. They just click on the task list, see all their pending tasks, click on update your profile, and then it just guides them on how they can update the profile. The next is the one that I know that most of you would also love to hear about, is the self-help bit. So the problem with training is that it doesn't end when the session ends, right? There are people that will have questions, that will have follow-up questions, that might not have paid attention or understood it completely when the session is happening, and they will have questions that they will come back to at a later point in time. So to help them, you can add a self-help widget anywhere on the screen. And when they open that, they will see a search bar that they can just ask their question. And this can be connected to multiple information sources like your knowledge base, like your support articles, like the internal documents that you have, like SharePoints or Confluence. And then when you just ask that question, it'll just give you that answer. And if they want to know how to perform a particular task inside the application, they will see that button to, for example, here we see how to edit an opportunity, and then it just shows them a video of how to do that right in the app itself. So this pop-up that you see, this can also be used to it can also be used to engage with your end users. So you can send out reminders, you can send out information like, hey, there is a new software update coming, or there's your performance update is due, and that's something that you'll have to finish it in 2 days to get their attention exactly where they are working. So now let's see a real world use case by Experian, who is a customer of Whatfix, and we will see how they drove Salesforce adoption across all their entire employee base with Whatfix. So Experian had a problem. They are a credit reporting company, and they had employees all over the world, and they were using Salesforce as their CRM. So Salesforce was used to identify prospects, close deals, and manage client relationships. But the application journey was complex and hard to navigate. And because their employee base is spread out across the globe, it is also difficult for them to be on site and help employees through everything that they're going through. So traditional LMS core training courses couldn't keep pace with the scale and speed of the speed of the business change. There are processes update that happen every day. Salesforce sometimes updates their application. You do hire people to make Salesforce fit better for your company, and then the generic courses that you find or the courses that you create is not something that will translate very easily to your company. So how did Experian solve this? They had an innovative connected tab connected tab provided interactive on-demand training in the flow of work. So instead of employees doing a separate training program before they start doing their work, they had on-demand training, which they can start and stop whenever they wanted, without breaking the workflow that they were doing. So if they were creating, for example, if they were importing a lead list and they were working on a campaign and they want to create a report and they don't know how to create a report, instead of going to a separate LMS, they could just go to self-help and type, how do I create a report? And then that will then tell you how they can create a report. They created assistants that were personalized to the user's role. So sellers would have a different journey as compared to someone from marketing, because they don't need to know how to how to create a new lead. They just need to know how to generate those reports. And then they did, and then because they are a global workforce, the training had to be localized to each region, and they did have a lot of Spanish-speaking users. So when they created training content in English, that was automatically translated to Spanish by Whatfix. Some of the results that they saw with DAP is that they had reduced their 19 training modules to one training module, which reduced sales onboarding. 6,500 opportunities related to pop-ups were shown to users every month, and 95% delivery team processes were automated. So they focus more on selling and not on learning. Sellers were also alerted when CRM data is missing or incomplete. So they were also able to maintain the data hygiene that they were trying to go for. So this is a quote from Lee Glenn, who worked with Whatfix to create these training courses, where he says that developers used to ask my team to fix Salesforce processes in Whatfix versus them spending days rewriting and testing codes. So because they were able to create all of these things using Whatfix without needing any code, even developers who know how to write code and fix process, they knew that if they use Whatfix, it would be easier for them to fix that. And with that, we are at the end of our webinar. If you have any questions, I would love to take them on the chat or in the Q&A.
Yes, you went by that so quickly. So yes, plug those questions away. We do have a couple, but we'll utilize this time. So first things first, this is a great question. Does Whatfix work on all applications? I know you touched on that a little, but wanted to confirm.
Yes, so Whatfix can work on all web applications. And in desktop applications, there are some applications most applications that we do support. We also support applications that are hosted on like a virtual machine, like your Citrix environment or Microsoft Azure. We also work on mobile apps, provided that you are the developer and it's not like a third-party mobile application.
Beautiful. I do see your question in the chat. Can you confirm what LMS you use? But while we wait for that, another great question. How easy is it to use Whatfix solution? And do we need coding skills to create and publish content?
Yes, so as we saw in the Experian case study, uh, Whatfix does support a drag and drop interface, so you can basically create everything using just your keyboard and mouse. You don't need any coding knowledge. You don't need to know how to write any code. It's just something that you can just point, click, and then create.
Perfect. And so yes, there was another great question in the chat now that we got the context. The question was, can I use this tool on top of my LMS? And the LMS they use is Brainer LMS.
I think I'll need a little bit more information. That are you saying how you can integrate Whatfix onto your LMS or use Whatfix to guide users through your LMS? The answer to both of that is yes, but then I just wanted to understand the use case in detail.
Completely. While we wait for that, we had another good question, and they apologize for coming in a little late, but they wanted to confirm. Did you say Whatfix can take English text input and auto-generate into other languages?
Yes, so it's not just text input. So if you're creating any guided flows, any pop-ups, any self-help content that you see, Whatfix does have an AI translation tool that will translate all this content into like over 100 languages. There are customers that used to have like a secondary check for the translation bit, but now that AI translation has gotten so much better right now, they have even stopped doing that. So basically what you can do is you can create it in one primary languages, be it English, be it Spanish, be it French, and then have it auto translate to all the other languages as and when you create them.
Perfect. Let us know if that, oh, it did. Perfect. Another question was, does Whatfix, can it translate Karen and Karini language? I apologize if I misspeak that, but probably a more niche language.
Malin, I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that, but I can get back to you and check with my team and get back to you.
Perfect. Another great question was, does it work on desktop applications also, or is it just the web?
So yes, it does work on desktop applications. So you'll have to download a separate Whatfix player that'll run parallel to your desktop application, and then it'll overlay all the widgets that you see on top of that application.
Beautiful. I'll give everybody about a couple more minutes on those questions while we wait for that. Is there anything else you would like to share, mention, roadmaps, any good stuff while we kind of wait for more questions?
Yes. So I think one of the things that I found interesting in one of the webinars that I did last time is that there are a lot of questions about AI, right? So a lot of companies are adopting AI technology now. And as an employee, I'm not saying this as an enabler, but as an employee, it can sometimes get overwhelming. It can sometimes get like you do feel like there is so much to do, or there is like so much that you need to learn about AI. And then when it comes to real business use cases, like you use it for like the first couple of days, and then you're like, okay, I'm just going to go back to my old processes. So someone did have a question about how they can, if they can use Whatfix to drive that adoption. And the answer is yes for that, right? So What Whatfix can also do is that it can also help you generate some of the prompts. So if you're all like, for example, the same example as the Salesforce one, if you are um, if you are a seller and you want to understand, get a summary of all the deals that you have on your pipeline. So instead of asking a co-pilot that detailed prompt, you can just auto-generate that prompt and then just get that response automatically. And if your users are, let's say, falling back to an old practice, like there is a new way to ask for help, but they keep going back to the wrong site, you can have launches, you can have a pop-up there that will send them to the right one. Another important use case that someone had mentioned was that if anybody was using shadow IT, right? Like if your company has approved Gemini, but everybody prefers ChatGPT and they go to ChatGPT and you don't have an enterprise license there, it can get very risky for the business if you are giving them your IP, right? Like if you're just giving them things that is not public yet, and then because ChatGPT is open source, there's a good chance that this might leak. So you can use Whatfix to warn users of using against ChatGPT. So if anybody opens ChatGPT, that could be a small message that will pop up on the screen that will then tell you that this is where you can, that you're not supposed to use ChatGPT, go back to Gemini and have that link and take them there automatically.
Perfect. No, that was a great way of thinking on that. There was another great question from Oscar, a little bit of a juicy one. How does Whatfix differentiate itself from other competitors?
Thank you, Oscar. So, Whatfix currently is the market leader in digital adoption platform. I think we have a lot of analyst recognition from Gartner, Peer Insights, from Forrester and Everest. We were the only vendor that got the only vendor that got Customer Choice Award for twice in a row, last year and this year. So we are Our platform works well in both web and desktop applications, and we are the only one that works on Citrix as well as it does on web applications. We also have a dedicated team of adoptions consultants who will work with you to create all the courses that you would need. So if you don't have the bandwidth, or if you don't have the budget to create or recreate all the courses, we do offer the professional services that will help you get on board quickly. I actually see another question there. I know you mentioned. Okay, there's a question from K Lawyer. Do you mind if I read it out, Liz? Yeah.
Go for it.
So I know you mentioned that the DApp can navigate someone to the LMS from other software. Do you see many healthcare organizations starting to move towards this format to learn in the flow of medical software? With EHR, yes. So there are companies that use Whatfix on EHR, especially because there are a lot of electronic health record softwares that only work on desktop. And there are companies that are worried about data security. And I see there's another question about, is Whatfix HIPAA compliant? I can actually get back to you on that particular question. But then when it comes to EHR applications, there are applications that are not connected to the internet, right? They need all the applications that they have are on-prem. They're not connected to the cloud. So Whatfix does work on these applications also. So if you do want to train users or guide users on top of your EHR or on top of your any POS system, you can do that, and you don't need to be connected to the internet or hosted on the cloud or anything like that. Liz, you're on mute.
I was trying not to interrupt during that, all that good stuff. But yeah, and then I think the last question that I see is it HIPAA compliant?
Rob, I can get back to you, but I can get back to you on that one.
Perfect. Well, with that being said, I don't see any more questions. So is there anything else you would like to leave with the audience today before we give them another break for this leader talk?
Yeah, thank you so much for joining the session. If you have any questions about Whatfix or how we can help you improve your digital adoption, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to give you a free consultation.
Perfect. And you are getting so much kudos in the chat. This was a wonderful session. Thank you so much. Great audience. And let's keep it going for our next session, which kind of segue me to there. So typically we have about a 15-minute break. We have a little bit more of a break, but up next we do have RK from CommLab India for their session, Next Gen Technical Training Case Studies and tools for speed and scale. If you want to reach out more to the Whatfix team, you can reach out to both of them and ask all of those questions, and they will be answered. But otherwise, I will see you in a moment. I'm going to end this session, and you can join our next session by returning to the event lobby and going to the session tab. I hope you stick around for our next session, which will begin in the top of the hour. See you soon, everybody.